All right, so we are currently living in a contactless society. So turning to a quick service type of restaurant is usually the easiest way to accomplish this. Today's meeting with extraordinary minds, we are going to talk about how the pandemic has affected some of the most recognizable brands in the U.S. I'm Stephanie Bohardt, the Director of Business Success for Revolution Mortgage. And here with me today, I have Dustin King, owner of Auntie Pretzels. Thanks for joining us, Dustin. We have Stephen Harnish, local owner of our local franchises of McDonald's here. Hi, Steve.
Hi.
We have Doug Bohardt, the Director of Operations for Sonic Drive-In. Hey, Doug.
Oh.
And then we have Rylan Miller, the owner of the Tropical Smoothies here. Hey, Rylan.
How's it going?
Good. Well, I know you guys are really busy, so I first want to thank you all for joining us today and sharing with you your experiences that you've been going through this pandemic. So I wanted to start off first by asking you how your business was leading up to this pandemic that has hit, and then what was the immediate effects of it. So Steve, I'm going to ask you if you would go ahead and start with that.
Okay, so coming out of the fourth quarter, we had a strong fourth quarter in our local McDonald's restaurants. Going into January and February, that trend continued. But once the coronavirus pandemic hit and the governor put certain mandates in to reduce hours and reduce capacity in restaurants and close lobbies and close short-term rentals and close beaches, our business went from an increase of 5 or 6% to a decrease of 35 to 40% immediately, like turning the faucet off. And it's continued to do that throughout the month of March and most of April. Now, since the mandates have been lifted somewhat and there's a little bit more flexibility, we're seeing a different trend at this point.
Yeah, well, that's good to know. Kind of you're trending a little around. How about you, Doug? What's been going on with Sonic?
2019 was a banner year for us across the board, and then getting into the beginning, first quarter this year, we were still comping over last year, which was, we were excited about just because of where we were last year. And then February was good. Obviously, the fear and the loss of a little bit of tourism slowed down beginning of March. And then I guess we have a little bit of a different story to tell after the pandemic, because for whatever reason, Sonic was in a perfect spot as far as our operations really didn't get impacted besides the patios closing. So we've had our struggles. We've had staffing struggles, supply chain struggles, all that kind of stuff. Traffic is, I think, relatively flat. Sales are up a little bit just because of, I think, the lack of selection and then other restaurants and stuff. And then obviously the ease of our customers still get to pull into a stall. North Myrtle Beach Police Department recognized it said you cannot consume the food on premise. They took that as the customers couldn't order at a stall and eat it in the stall. So actually at that restaurant, we had a sign that if they ordered in a stall, they actually had to leave after that. But other than that, our operations really haven't changed from a basic operational standpoint. Obviously, we've done a lot of stuff from a safety standpoint and changed, the way we do a lot of things inside the restaurant, amount of employees we have in the restaurant, all that kind of stuff. But relatively fortunate with all things considered, throughout this. So
yeah, for sure. Rylan, are you seeing how are you guys doing at Tropical Smoothie? I know some of your restaurants don't have the drive-through, so I wanted to see how that kind of changed things.
Yeah, so we've got 17 units. 6 of them are drive-thrus, and there's no doubt that the drive-thru units, and probably to Doug's point, because if you've got people that are able to just pull through, it makes a huge difference. I'm sure you guys see that in McDonald's as well. The ones we got to come in, we really turned on our curbside, like most businesses did. So that was, from the franchisor standpoint, that race to get the technology available, which we weren't really ready for, and we figured out on the fly. So it's been good. It's been helpful. People were able to kind of come in and order and take it to go. When that real press conference for, hey, we're going to start shutting down here in mid-March, that's when we saw the faucet go from, double-digit increase comps from last year down to, negative 30% comps from last year, 40% comp from last year, 50% down, all the way down to 70% kind of in the heart of this thing we're just now starting to get back up where this last weekend we're actually up 30% from last year, which is huge. So we're picking up week to week now from last year, going back into a normal week. Monday, yesterday we were up 14% from last year, down 14% from last year. So we're slowly starting to get back up on that ladder and build back up to where we were last year. We hope that, we'll be able to get some market share once this is all over, but, who really knows? I think the consumer sentiment is going to change to some degree, but what will that new normal be?
Yeah, for sure. And Dustin, I know you have a little bit of a different story. You shared with us kind of how you guys were doing prior to, and then I'm sure kind of came to a screeching halt.
Yeah, our trend was much like the other guys. We had a great year in 19. This year started off strong. February was great, 5 Saturdays in February, an extra day. But the second week of March, the water just got turned off. I think the third week of March, right in the beginning, we had Simon Properties, which is one of the biggest small property management companies in the country. They called us on Tuesday, said we're closing tomorrow. So that shut down about 9 of our stores. And so in Atlanta and Knoxville, Charlotte, our big malls, where we have, we typically own 3 or 4 or 5 concepts in one mall. So no fault of our own, we were shut down. We decided to close as a company March 21st. A lot of the tangers and stuff, they stayed open, but there was nobody there. So we just elected to close. And we've still got, North Carolina's up in the air when stuff's going to reopen. Nashville's a market where the governor's, putting more restrictions on. So we're kind of at the mercy. We do have a wave of stores opening this Friday. So we'll see. But, we have no drive-throughs. We do third-party delivery and a lot of that stuff, but the volumes just weren't there, or we couldn't even get access to the malls in many cases. So, but we're doing a lot of catering and stuff like that we can do, planned orders and stuff. But to Doug's point, we've already been told that there's distribution issues, and we're trying to ramp up with getting reopened, but there's stuff that you can't even get, to reopen. So we're trying to work that out.
So with all this, go ahead, you can tell you, Rylan.
Yeah, is it okay to ask a question?
Yeah, for sure.
I'm kind of curious how the landlords have been in your situation where the mall closes down. Have they been lenient on the rent, on your lease payments, or how does that work exactly? Have you had any success there?
Yeah, we have about a dozen different landlords. Simon and Brookfield are the 2 big ones. They haven't really come out yet because I don't think they know what's going to happen. We're kind of battling on 2 issues. So we pay our March rent. We got half of March really worth of sales. We didn't pay April, and we haven't paid May because we're not open. Where some of them are looking at deferments, which doesn't really do us a lot of good because they want 12 months of rent for 10 months of sales. But really our question is what's going to happen now, because we're, unlike a lot of probably your guys' models, we pay high rent, but we have a lot of other lower costs, right? So we've got a couple of landlords who have agreed to that if we pay half in April and half in May, then they'll work on a percentage-based rent moving forward, and that's kind of what we're looking at because we don't know how we're going to reopen. Not our stores, but stores in Texas open doing 50% of what they were doing. Well, that model doesn't work for us, with the rents we're paying, because we pay for foot traffic. That's why we're paying $10,000 or $12,000 or $15,000 a month rent is for the foot traffic.
Yeah, makes total sense. You guys, you would typically have a captive audience, and now there's no one, you can't go.
Right.
But to me, my thought is that those landlords would seek loan deferrals, and then they would pass that savings essentially onto the lessees, and they haven't really done that. I was successful with one landlord here in Murrells Inlet. I can't give them enough props. I really appreciate it, but of 17, one guy said, yeah, we'll help you out. I just couldn't believe that.
Yeah.
Well, and that's, I've got a couple of middle market malls, and I'm like, if we don't get anything worked out, I'm not going to open. And their model is there. Well, y'all get reopened, and then we'll work sometime.
Yeah.
Not going down that road.
No. For sure. And well, I mean, on this same topic, I was like, how about, forgiveness and help in any other way, like with the PPP loans? I mean, Dustin, you can start with that. You guys successful with that?
Well, we got our PPP loan. First thing we did is we went to our lender called us, and we went interest only for 90 days on any loan payments. So we were able to work that out. We were able to work out with a couple of our vendors to get off of ACH and kind of defer some stuff. A lot of our smaller monthly fees, whether it's credit card, digital menu board, our third-party delivery stuff, they either cut their monthly fees in half, which every little bit helps for us. But we're trying to make sure that we do get that loan forgiveness, the PPP loan forgiveness. But I agree with Steve. I think you're going to have I think it's either going to go one or two ways. I think they're going to just say, all right, everybody's forgiven, because the banks don't want to take that as a loan or deal with it, or they're going to be really, really strict, and you're going to have to make sure that you've allocated these loans correctly. But I don't know how they're going to have the resources to audit all these things, to be honest with you. I mean, it was a nightmare to get it out, and get everybody approved. So,
yeah, you're right. That's going to be the tough part. We were in a little different situation with my lender is Bank of America, but I don't have any deposit accounts with them because they're not close to any of my restaurants. So I use 3 other banks for deposits. So they, being the large bank that they are, wouldn't allow PPP loans unless you had a depository account with them. So I had to get creative and go with my other smaller local banks. And we're dealing with Synovus and which is now Truist, BB&T, and Conway. And at the beginning, I believe we had more information in our pockets than they did, because I went to them and started this whole process, and they said, we haven't even been briefed on it at our local level. So it took a few days after the start of this program for me to even have a good conversation with the banks. And about a week later, then, filed the application, submitted all the documentation, which changed every week. They added 1 or 2 pieces of documents that you needed for support. And about 2 weeks after that, then I got the approval from one bank, and a week later, approval from another bank. So it wasn't an easy process, and I believe the forgiveness part of it is going to be even more difficult, because there's just so much interpretation on the language coming out of the SBA and Treasury that deals with, what is full-time equivalent? How do you arrive at full-time equivalent? For the ACA purposes, it was 30 hours or more was full-time, and anything below that was part-time. And you needed to take all your hours and divide it by 30, and that would give you a full-time equivalent. Well, that's the premise I'm going on right now, because it's all I have to go by. But they haven't really put any guidelines out accordingly. And like Dustin said, there may be some light at the end of the tunnel by them doing a little more forgiveness than what they had originally said they would. But if you don't spend 75% of what you borrow, then you don't get it all forgiven. And then you can use the other 25% for things like utilities, electric, water, gas, Wi-Fi, phone, and rent also. So in my case, my landlord is McDonald's. I pay rent to McDonald's based off my sales. They too have deferred our rent to August and September. But I wholly believe that if you're in a position to pay it, it's probably best to pay it now, because the hole just gets deeper by September when you have 3 or 4 months to make up. But if you can't, then obviously the deferral is a great tool to use. But if I can use that rent, as they say on the PPP forgiveness, then I believe I'll be okay with the 25% extra that I need to have forgiven. But again, there's so many gray areas as far as the loan is concerned. So you just have to get all the homework and do all your homework and get all your documents. Follow your payroll company. If you have an outside payroll company, they may be able to put together a report for you. Ours, ProLiant, has done that for us so far, and they're tracking all of our employees and hours that they work. And each pay period, every 2 weeks, I'm going to get a report that tells me my full-time equivalent, and I'll have all the start dates and hourly wages and things like that go along with it, that will document what I need to show the bank at the end of the day as to how I arrived at those numbers. So that's kind of what we're doing on it. But I think more is better in this case. if you got an electric bill, make a copy of it, put it in a folder. So you're gonna have to show it to the bank possibly someday at the end of this whole thing. But I think that's kind of the homework that's necessary right now to make sure that we get some of these loans forgiven.
Yeah, for sure. Rylan, you had a similar experience?
Yeah, I wasn't successful initially with the PPP loan. I think a lot of people out there weren't. I was successful in this next iteration of funds. Haven't gotten the money yet, but did get an E-Tran number, so kind of secures your place in line. And it's certainly going to be helpful. Bringing people back on, making those payments for 75% for labor, and the rest for rent, utilities, the things that keep the lights on, and essentially give you the ability to pay employees. So it'll be a good response, I think. I don't know. My hope is that this doesn't happen again. The thing is with restaurants, it's not like it's retail where you've got product on a shelf and you can make up the sales later. I mean, if we don't get the sales now, you don't get the sales. So we're in a weird spot where we've lost a good portion of that essentially revenue for the beginning of the year, where we were, and that kicks the can down the road for future development as well. So if you're expecting, we've got 5 units to develop, and we're trying to get them open this year. I don't think it's probably not going to happen. Probably going to 2021 and then beyond. So it's just pushing the can down the road. And,
yeah, for sure. Doug, did Sonic start or do the PPP loan?
So, as I mentioned before, sales weren't impacted as much. What we did see was what I'll call kind of the first 3 weeks of the directly of the pandemic was the last 2 weeks of March, first week of April. Our beach locations, so 10th Avenue, North Myrtle Beach, a little bit of Pawleys Island, and then New York they were all down, significantly down. But transversely, the locations where people were normally traveling from to come to the beach. So the Florence locations, what we call our Charlotte market, which is in South Carolina still, but those locations, we're seeing a significant uptick just because people weren't traveling; they were staying home and busying us there. But so we did kind of an exploratory process on those 4 locations that were directly impacted, and just the way it was all trending, we kind of started seeing some hope. And the other locations, obviously, we can support each other. And we're in another fortunate situation where we have 14 locations. We own 13 of the property at 13 of the locations. We rent 10th Avenue. So, we weren't in a landlord situation. So we backed out completely, and we haven't received anything. We're not currently looking into any of it.
I gotcha. That's good. I mean, it's like you can kind of even flow and kind of leave it out there for those that are really struggling and need it. So that's awesome. So we've talked a little bit about, kind of where it started and some of our struggles, but I want to hear a little bit more about what successes you've had throughout this, and maybe some ways that you kind of changed your business model around and how you're adjusting. So Dustin, I wanted to go to you first about, kind of little successes that you guys have had and a new product line that our family has already enjoyed.
Yeah, so one of the ladies at the Indiana's Corporate Training Center developed this DIY, do-it-yourself at home pretzel kit that we used to have these many years ago that were kind of packaged in a factory, and we'd sell them during the holiday season, and then they went to retail. But we basically recreated it. We took the ingredients we already have, and we were portioning out flour and cinnamon sugar, salt, the sodium bicarb, and the yeast, and basically created a kit for you to do an activity at home where you can make, it makes up to 10 pretzels, that you can make pizza crust, you can, do those kind of things. So we were, I'm on the board for Indians, and we had a call a couple weeks ago, and one of the guys from Nebraska is like, I tried this weekend, and it was great. So my fiance, we live in Atlanta right now. She's like, she's been here for a while. She said, let's just put this on Facebook and next door, and let's see what happens. And we spent all Sunday taking orders. We got several hundred orders very quickly, and I'm like, now we have to figure out how to do this, because we had all these stores closed, But I knew we had a lot of the dry goods and stuff that we had already, had in the store that were obviously not going to expire. So we quickly identified a couple stores that we could get access to. So Tanger 501 in Myrtle Beach, and we were doing it out of another store in Tennessee, and we started doing that. And corporate was actually doing it themselves as well, and they figured out they couldn't handle it because they furloughed a lot of their people. So then they reached out to us and said, "Hey, we'd like to put this back online. We need somebody to continue to fulfill these orders." So we got a new business model, so it helps give some hours to some people, and it's been great. We've had neighborhoods that will take orders, and we've delivered them. North of the city here, where we don't have stores, 45 minutes. One lady sold 120 kids.
Wow.
So it's been really, really awesome. The community has really supported it, and it's a great activity. You can tease that you can use it as a math and a science project or whatever at home, because you got to measure out the water, and you got to the yeast activates the flour and makes the dough rise. So it's pretty neat, and it's a great, while you're at home, a lot of people have been home with kids, so they're looking for things to do. They've already made cookies, they've made brownies, they've made whatever, but they haven't been able to go to Auntie and get a pretzel. So it's and I think the next step is we're going to use it for fundraising. It's going great, and it's something we're going to continue to have once we do get back open. But it's been a lot of fun. Yeah, trying to figure it out.
We will contest. The pretzels taste not as good as being in the shop, but really, really close. And we were impressed by the end result. And it was fun. I mean, our kids enjoyed it, and it was crazy. I was like, we got it as a gift from a friend just for showing support to their business. And then all of a sudden, just on my post of pictures on Facebook, there was, 6 different people that were asking, where did you get that? How did you get that? How can I order it? And I just saw, I was blown away with just that response. I was tagging Dustin in every single post and just like, how do these people get this? And so it's always fun to see something like that come out of these times. We've seen so many.
A lot of people have received a kit, and then they contact us. Hey, we'd love to give them to 4 or 5 of our neighbors because they received it. So a lot of people are paying it forward. So a lot. There has been people that have been able to work that haven't been impacted, and they're really being great citizens right now and helping the community and sharing some pretzel love and everything else. So it's been really good.
Yeah, what better love than pretzel love? I love that. Steve, what kind of successes have you seen come out of some of this?
So I'll lead up to the success, but the changes in our restaurants have been tremendous, and our whole business model, I believe every business model is going to be changing out there in the future, but things that we took for granted before are being mandated and regulated right now in respect to you could always order as many gloves as you wanted, or sanitizer, or soaps and detergents and things like that. Now it's all being regulated, at least in our world it is. But we've put gloves on every person. We've put masks on everybody. We've bought plastic dividers, sneeze guards, if you will, between registers and food prep areas. We put them on the drive-through windows as well. We've increased our delivery by 35-40% through our third-party delivery services, and the mobile app has been increased probably by about 20% with people ordering on and then just coming in to pick it up. So that has helped us tremendously. Those stores or restaurants that don't have drive-thrus obviously are suffering a little bit. We've gone from probably a 70% drive-through percentage to about a 92% right now. The other 8% are walking in and getting bags and taking them out with them. So that whole model has changed. We put tape on floors for social distancing, things like that, and we're wiping down the high contact areas regularly. So to do all these things, obviously your employees and crew have to work a little bit harder at it. They got to be a little more cognizant of what's going on in the world, and there's a lot of training that goes on with it. So we've put some contests in order with them as it relates to cleanliness and speed of service in the drive-through. And at the end of this week, I can tell you this week there was a contest going on. If they hit certain times in the drive-through, every crew person in the company got 8 hours extra pay.
Wow.
So we're doing that, and that'll equal $25,000 or $26,000 at the end of the week for all the employees. But it's something that we want to show them that it's not just the firefighters and the policemen and the doctors and nurses that are first responders or frontline people, but our people are every single day. They're making it happen for us, and nobody knows that better than I do, because you can't do it yourself. So we really appreciate the people that have gone above and beyond and come in when they didn't have school to take care of their kids. They didn't have daycare to take care of their kids. They pushed them off on their mom or grandma or brother or sister. And it's really been effective, and it's helped us keep a lot of people. We too have not laid off anybody, but just because of what's going on, people have left us temporarily because of the daycare and those type of situations. Right. But one success story I wanted to talk about was we've done a free meal for first responders for the last 2 weeks. And it included the firefighters and policemen and doctors, anybody in the medical staff. And they could come in every day and get a free meal, breakfast, lunch, or dinner. And we've given over 6 million meals away so far in the McDonald land. And we're pretty proud of that. And we've got a lot of good response, but it's just our way of saying thanks to everybody. And I don't know that we can continue to do it for weeks on end, just because of the immense costs. But I believe today was the last day that it'll be done, and some operators are going to choose to do it even longer. So pretty big success story there. The other thing on the downside, and I don't want to put a black mark on it, somebody mentioned about shortages of food. We've already been told that there's the beef and pork shortages, and it's going to affect everyone. So I think everyone needs to know it. I've seen it in the grocery stores already. McDonald's is in a little better position because we hedged some of that stuff for months ahead. But with the processing plants that are closing in the country, we're going to see it everywhere. So we're coming out of one struggle. We've got some success stories, and we may go into another struggle, which is completely different than staffing and or viruses. It has to do with food supply. So those are some of the things that are going on in our world, and I know everybody's feeling it right now.
Yeah, for sure. Doug, I wanted you to kind of bounce off of that as well, because I know you've dealt with some of the similar struggles with that, and kind of tell us a little bit about your struggles, successes, and how you guys are adapting to the new restrictions that you have to have in your locations.
To what Steve was talking about, we've definitely increased our delivery at the stores that participate in that. Our Order Ahead app has been pushed on a national level because it does present the contactless payment. It kind of offers that additional speed where you can order and then pull onto the lot, pull into a stall. All you got to do on your app is put what stall number you're at, and it sends it right to us, and then we bring it out to you. It's already ready for you. So it's definitely a smooth that transition in that process a little bit, but so hopefully those kind of things stay, and then we can get obviously more traffic on the lots, which everyone's hoping for. Some of the things we've done, Steve mentioned the plexiglass in the drive-thru. We have a lot of our drive-thru windows are very small, where it wouldn't even have made sense. We can barely get the bags of food out as it is, like an older design, but 2 of our locations have the big sliding window. We did put plexiglass basically a little bit more than half of the window. We got credit card machines on the outside of the windows, trying to get the customers to handle their own transactions out there, just to limit, one more contact point. And just all in all, just, trying to, anything we can do to keep the guests safer. We sanitize the push buttons, which people don't think about a lot, where you pull into the lot and you hit the push button, the red button, to place your order. I mean, that's getting touched by every single customer, so we're sanitizing that after every customer leaves. Just doing anything we can over and above, and all that stuff will stick down the road, just because A, I don't think this is really going anywhere anytime soon. B, there's other viruses and stuff out there that we don't need to be spreading around. So I think limiting contact for forever, I think it's going to be a thing. I think the handshake's going to go away, the hugs are going to go away, to a certain extent. It's going to be interesting to see all that kind of stuff. But to speak to some more of the supply chain stuff, I mean, I'm on the FAC with Sonic, and we were in a meeting back in March, and the guy that Sonic is part of Inspire Brands. We got bought by them December of 18. So we're part of Arby's, Buffalo Wild Wings, and now Jimmy John's. So, there's been a lot of shared services and a lot more in-depth research on a lot of the stuff. And the one guy from supply chain got up and talked about that basically before even the coronavirus was an issue in China, there was the African swine flu that basically decimated 70% of China's pork population. And the Chinese people consume the most popular meat they consume is pork. Well, when they lost that population, the Chinese government basically switched what was available in the grocery stores in China to beef. And so then where it was a 65% pork consumption, they switched to more of a 33% pork, 33% chicken, 33% beef. Significantly increased the consumption of beef in China while losing the pork supply. And then, so that was end of 19. Now all of a sudden, all of this happens, and the international supply chain has just kind of been, thrown into a disarray. And when you start reading more articles and all that kind of stuff, people are start talking about Smithfield, where they got bought by a Chinese company. The pigs are raised here, basically slaughtered, sent to China, processed in China, sent back here. So I think we're learning a lot about international dependency that the United States has and all countries have on each other. And this is putting a huge spotlight on it. And I think, so besides increased consumption by people, grocery shopping more and all that kind of stuff and stuff running out there's lack of supply across the board. So that's what's, I think, down the road. And I know Wendy's is already they pulled back all of their burger promotions, burger LTO. I think they're even taking some burgers off the menu. I mean, it's not a problem that's going to go away. And so and then on top of that, a lot of the, we're supported by food distribution centers. We don't have our own. Sonic or Inspire doesn't have their own distribution chain. So we have US Foods, and, they're doing well with some concepts, but they've lost, you look at all the restaurants closed or significantly down. Well, US Foods is obviously turned significantly down. They furloughed a lot of employees, so a lot of support staff's not there. So, we don't have the support, and they're not, on top of the constant changes. And supply chain is a huge part of the business, and it's a highly intelligent part of it. And it's a struggle now, and I think it will be a struggle for the foreseeable future. I think you're going to start seeing signs at restaurants, we're out of this, we're out of that, kind of like Costco said, before you even walk in the door, we're out of these 10 things. So if that's what you're here for, there's no point coming in. I think you're going to start seeing maybe some limited menus in some concepts, and then even, just being out of it. And it's a frustration as much as the customer is frustrated when they pull in the lot and we don't have an item. Trust me, it's tenfold inside the four walls. So I think, if anything, anybody watch, just understanding of the whole process and moving forward, that we're all doing the best we can and trying to make the best of it. So.
Yeah, for sure. Rylan, I wanted you to kind of give us your synopsis on kind of your struggles and successes that you've had.
Yeah, I mean, with supply chain, I think we're all in the same boat there. Similar, not the same products, but other, chicken, and fresh, a lot of the different fruits. We've had some supply chain issues, and yeah, of course, the ask is, it's tough. It's a hard sell to customers when they come up and expect one thing and you don't have it. So that's always hard, and managing expectations there. Some of the successes we've had are probably in the technology space, and then the human side of it. So technology-wise, we've third-party delivery, as I'm sure you guys are, have to deal with the same thing. You've got multiple tablets, Grubhub, Uber Eats, DoorDash, Postmates, all the different variety out there. So we've recently integrated into our point of sale, which is actually a big deal for us if we run micros. I don't know if you guys have used it, but it's not a very good system. So integrating that has been helpful. The downside of that is third party takes a large percentage. A lot of people don't know this, but they take 20+% off the top line sales. If you think about that, restaurants average 12, 15, maybe 15% profitability, so they're taking 20. How does that really work?
Right.
At least we're getting cash flow that pays our employees and keeps the lights on, but it's not a perfect scenario. Of course, curbside, that's been helpful for us. It's been a success. We were never really planning on being in the curbside space. Some cafes were doing it, but you kind of just manage with what you need and what you have. And then finally, that human aspect of it was, like Steve had mentioned, you guys were giving away free meals. We're doing basically the same thing with smoothies, and we're doing it for first responders. So we set out to give out 100,000 smoothies for first responders, medical staff, and we ended up doubling that, and it's still ongoing. So we're really proud of that and happy to be able to help any way we can.
Well, that's great. Well, you guys have shared a lot of great information. I just want to give you guys, as we're kind of wrapping up here, a last minute, kind of time to, if you can tell us how our community can help support you more. I know one of the things, and obviously you can see our last names are the same, but Doug and I, being, working for Sonic, a lot of people right when this started, they say support local restaurants, which I believe wholeheartedly, but a lot of people don't realize that the chain restaurants like you guys represent, they are local people, local owners, local families that run these. So we need to, kind of support all across the board. So I'll let Dustin, you can go ahead and start, how can our community support you more? And then how can they reach out and get in touch with you, either to order the pretzel buckets, or, if they're looking for any kind of employment when you guys get going, anything along those lines.
Yeah, so we'll be opening all the Myrtle Beach stores this Friday. So Coastal Grand, both Tangers, Broadway. So we're excited. I mean, hopefully, we'll be ready to go. We do have the plexiglass. We'll be wearing masks or gloves and trying to do, all the things like you guys mentioned for the stores that are open. Come out, be patient, with a lot of us. We're having to, it's going to be crowd control, hopefully a little bit. We're used to, putting people through, grabbing out of the warmer and doing those kind of things. But we're really going to, we're going to pre-bag everything. All the condiments and everything are going into the bag. So there's a lot more service involved. And I think Steve mentioned that, the staff is going to be working hard. We're doing virtual training all this week to kind of get people back, get them comfortable, let them know what to expect, and the new norm. Because like Doug said, business is going to be, this sped business up for us with the online ordering and the pickup and all those kind of things. That stuff was coming, but this, made it, lightning fast. So, we're excited to be back open. We've got a lot of people that are excited to get back to work. So, come out and see us at the malls and Tanger, and that's the best way. But we do have the kits. I'll send you the link again. They can order them. A lot of principals are sending them to teachers and those kind of things. It's a great way to share it if you can't get out to the malls.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, if you wouldn't mind, if you want to drop the link below this on our Facebook page, or I can add it in there so that people can easily order through there. How about you, Steve?
Well, as restrictions are lifted and mandates are lifted, I think we're going to see an influx of tourists, I hope.
Yeah.
Golf courses are allowed to operate with one person in a cart. Beaches are open. Short-term rentals are starting to open a little bit at a time. Once we're allowed to open those lobbies up, we need to really be careful about how we do it. Probably 25-50% capacity to start, 6 feet social distancing, wiping high areas off constantly, maybe one-way traffic in and out. These are just some of the ideas we're looking at on some of our webcasts at McDonald's and how we're going to approach the whole situation. Like it or not, it's there and it's here to stay for a little bit. I don't think it's going to go away until we see some type of vaccine and or medicines that help cure this thing or reduce it a little bit. So regardless of what we like, that's probably how we're going to have to conduct business. And I think that I would like to just say to the public, be patient when you're in the restaurants. Our people are trying to do the best they can. We'll certainly make it right if it's not for you, and hopefully we can continue to serve the community as we have been for the last lots of years. So, thank you.
Yeah, that's great. Doug?
you kind of stole over my thunder talking about the local businesses, but so and there has been widely shared stuff on Facebook and all that kind of stuff. Don't go to the chains. And if that's your mojo, then yeah, there are some corporately owned restaurants in the area that you might think have bigger coffers or can do a second stock option on their restaurant, whatever it is. I mean, but any restaurant on the Grand Strand, I mean, it's regardless of who owns it, there's the amount of people that are employed in the hospitality industry as a whole. I mean, the Grand Strand runs on hospitality. So whether it's golf courses or restaurants or hotels or if you take any one of those elements out of the equation, we're all in trouble. So, I think just getting back out and spending some money in the economy, going to the restaurants that just did reopen, or as the capacity grows on some of the other restaurants like McDonald's, where you can get back in and the 70-year-old guys can get back in on Saturday mornings and get their coffee and sit around and tell their jokes, get back in there and do that. And just as a whole, just grow, just get back out. And, I mean, restaurants particularly run on razor thin margins with current, without pandemics. I'm talking anywhere on an annual basis, 3 to, on the high end, 15% margins maybe, so, I mean, they're not gold mines, I mean, there's going to be, we're going to realize how much money restaurant owners were making when 30% of them don't even reopen in Myrtle Beach or across the country. It wasn't like they're sitting on their, in their mansions just counting their money while this pandemic's going on. I mean, it's real problems and real struggles. So, anything any of the general public can do is to get out and support all the restaurants that just reopened yesterday, and just anything you can do, because we are all dependent on the public to survive. So we just thank everyone for everything that they're trusting in us, because you do trust in every restaurant you go to for your health, and we're doing the best we can to do that, and we just hope to see everyone soon. So.
Yeah, for sure. Rylan, take it home for us.
Yeah, so I'll just echo what everybody else basically said. Get back out there, support your local restaurants. Sunday, they might seem like big chains. There's not a whole lot of them. I mean, like Chipotle, Starbucks. I mean, those are like big chains. And individually, McDonald's are individually owned. Auntie, Sonic, Tropical Smoothies. They're not like a big franchisor that owns all of those, or a big corporation that owns all of those. They're individuals, just like us, that are right here on this webcast. So get back out there, support your local community. Try to get a sense of normalcy. Take part in some of those things that, like Dustin's offering, right? You go and that's a cool innovation that you guys come up with. That to serve the community still. And then one last thing I'd like to say is just we've got a link, freesmoothies.com, if people want to go to the end of this month. They'll be able to go on there, build a smoothie however you want it, and you go pick it up at your local tropical smoothie for free. So we're doing that, wanting to kind of spread that tropical theme and sunshine that we did with the first responders to essentially all of America. And our goal is to give away 1 million smoothies. We'll see where we get. Maybe we'll give away more, hopefully not less, but that's our goal to the end of May. So go out there, freesmoothies.com.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, who doesn't love a free smoothie? But with all that said, you're getting a free smoothie. So enjoy a sandwich with it, maybe, or a little snack. Spend a little money, which would always be good. We always feel like that, but we definitely patronize all of your restaurants a lot. So we appreciate you guys all. I know individually you guys are busy and serving our community, so I really appreciate it. You taking the time to speak with us today, and I appreciate all the viewers that we've had come on. We'll link through some information from them that you can reach out to them. But yeah, get out, spend some money, support our local businesses that we have in town that are doing great things for our community as well. So thank all our viewers. Join us Thursday for our next edition of Meeting with Extraordinary Minds as we talk to some event professionals to see how this pandemic has really halted their business, but has now started to regrow, and people have started to rebook. So we're excited to meet with some of them. So join us Thursday at 9:10 right here on our Facebook page. Thank you all for joining. You guys have a great day.
Thanks.